Blessings, family. Sister Ajali. Sometimes these guys get so friggin' obvious with their idiotic desperation that I wasn't even planning on doing a share. I've gotten real comfortable not doing shares, even though I'm dedicated to coming up here on the regular. Number one, I need your help in order to facilitate my work and my research. So I thank the third person who came through based off of my memes, and I hope in one of my shares, the only one I done recently, that inspired you to go over to 25,000yearcycle.org and purchase my excellent soap. Everything on that website is there to heal us, and it works so astronomically. Number one, it works because these just insane genocidal maniacs have to lie constantly in order to keep their income going, and that's what I'm going to just break it down. I don't know how long this share is going to be. I entreat you to watch the entire share all the way through and to just share it with your friends and your family, because the information is going to be irrefutable. These are the most important broadcasts that I do, covering what is on our plates. So go to 25,000 Year Cycle for just, I don't know what, another week. Dr. Z has free consultations, and he is amazing. Amazing. I every now and I don't get to hear the whole conversation, but I'll hear what he's sharing with our family, those who do call for a consultation, and this it's unbeatable. And he gets calls from people who are even suffering from cancer, which is wholly treatable, okay? But let's get into this mystery of why more than 2,000 gray whales have died along U.S. coast since 1980s may have been solved. Oh my goodness. I attribute them having to say that it's been solved because folks such as myself, and I'm the only black anti-nuclear, vocal black anti-nuclear out here. There's a couple white anti-nukers still on social media, and then there's more who run websites, and then there's a faction that they're just completely off the trail 100%. They're out there fighting nuclear proliferation, which is not our problem because it's not the bomb they need to kill us. It's the fact that Joe Biden's administration has overseen the FDA allowing in all food from Fukushima into the U.S. markets. And one atom is enough to start a virulent cancer in your body. In a whole forkful of flesh, that can be a whole lot of atoms, and Mainichi News found that there has been no reduction whatsoever in the levels of contamination in the soil all around Fukushima, and Fukushima radiation has been found all over the planet. I know, just based on so many factors that I can't, indicate each one, this is a deliberate genocide, with it targeted specifically at black us, but white folks are going down too. I collect so many obituaries of their unusual mortalities, and I notice the pattern of those who are in the Ukraine dying. They got Chernobyl over there. And then over in California, that's where you're going to find the bulk of young, unusual deaths. And of course, we're targeted using the CMOS. Now, and so I would hazard a guess that I would think is really a conclusion, that these dudes had to stop looking stupid because they get paid so much money, but they get paid by the government to shut the hell up. Trump enacted a gag order on scientists, and it hasn't been lifted, and so they can only talk about certain things. And that was on top of Congress already having decades ago approved and agreement that if any scientist is getting money from the U.S. government and they talk about radiation, they can be eliminated forever, life-wise, okay? And so that's why they have to come up here and act like they're smart all of a sudden. And they figured out, and they're saying the same damn reasons for the mass die-off, which also, here's how you know. Here's how you know. Where they're saying U.S. coast in the headline, because they know most people are going to only read the headline. But when you go on down to the article, where's this happening? On the Pacific coast. Now, I know folks are aware of the fact that there are now whales dying in the Atlantic Ocean, but that goes right along with the science of dispersion, where the radiation from the Pacific, from Fukushima, is going to all the waters. The Pacific provides the most rain on our planet. And so something that's as light as an atom is surely deluging our atmosphere. And they up here, notice they say since the 1980s. Well, let me go on over this one. Because goodness knows, Fukushima happened in 2011, and 1980, if you can count, is well before 2011. Well, there's this giant failed nuclear power plant called San Onofre, and all nuclear power plants emit radiation. I'm just saying, it's not as if radiation hasn't already been introduced to the environment. What Fukushima does is there's been such an unprecedented escalation in the numbers of dead things. I mean, it's extraordinary. They had starfish wasting disease. They have all these birds along Australian coasts and along the west coast, mewers and seagulls and puffins, all just dropping dead in catastrophic numbers right after Fukushima. But let's not, leave it there, because they've been specifically poisoning the Pacific for a very, very long time. I actually even have this book, Poisoning the Pacific. New book details U.S. military contamination of islands and oceans. This has been going on since, there we go, 1968. This is mostly going over the Agent Orange that they dumped, which would be killer without a doubt. I concentrate on the radiation because it is deadly on a one-atom basis. It is mutagenic, meaning that, oh my goodness, let me show you a photo. I had to screen capture this because I can't believe how desperate they are to show nuclear as a positive thing, even though the nuclear industry just admitted that low-level radiation is a heck of a lot more dangerous. That's the word they use. They're always going to hide the severity of anything, but it's a heck of a lot more dangerous than they previously ever realized. Now, I did a video about that one. If I find it, I'll put it at the end. But in the meantime, this is after Sam Brinton he went down in a death spiral. I mean, he's still alive, but he is a very confused man, but he was a nuclear physicist. And so Biden hired him as a he non-binary, I guess is what he would call himself. No such thing in my understanding of Allah's world. But yeah, he went down in flames with how that kind of a mind is amoral at the very outset. If you do not understand the boundaries between male and female, you already have a very nebulous sense of what is good and bad, all right? And so, yeah, he's out. Now they got Miss America peddling atomic energy. But notice this was off the front page of Daily Mail. Very next article right next to it, because they have to do, in their estimation, that as above, so below. So they'll lie to you on one side and then put the truth of what the radiation does on the other side and leave you to figure it all out. And that's going to coincide with what I end this share with. But my baby was born without an anus. And then, of course, they're going to make it seem like, oh, she's so happy. She's so smiling. Her baby has no freaking butthole. And they're going to make it seem like I was so scared at first. And then I realized that it wasn't any big deal. As long as I go into the media and act like it's no big deal, they'll give me plenty of money. And I could hire nurses to do all the aid that this poor little baby requires. I mean, good Lord, okay? And so here, going back to the poisoning the Pacific, the dome that they have in Bikini Island or one of those island nations is leaking radioactive material into the sea, and that has been since what? I don't know what year or what, but it's been decades and decades and decades, okay? We're over decades contaminating the Pacific with toxic substances, including radioactive waste, nerve agents, and dioxin-tainted Agent Orange. Does that sound like climate change? No. And neither does this. I found this helpful nuclear waste basics, just to prove none of it is tolerable. They bringing out Miss America, and she's sure, oh, this is the only way that we can have energy that's clean. That is just a bold-faced lie. Why haven't we heard anything about the nuclear industry admitting low-level radioactive contamination is far worse than dangerous? I'm quite sure, like I said, that they only said that because people like me and others have been just sounding the alarm forever. Okay? So, building one nuclear power facility requires enormous amounts of cement and steel, which they then recycle into belts and utensils that we don't even begin to know which ones are radioactive, but I'm quite sure studying these dudes is going to the poor black communities first and foremost. That's why I have that other graph where we have the highest rate of low birth weight babies of all races in the United States of America. How is that possible unless we're being targeted, okay? And so building one nuclear power facility requires enormous amounts of cement and steel. Manufacturing cement and steel demands tremendous amounts of energy and generate tremendous carbon emissions. Mining and refining uranium ore to make reactor fuel also requires large amounts of energy. We therefore cannot rightly call nuclear power carbon neutral or zero emitting. The same thing with those friggin' lithium batteries that they want to get rid of gas cars. So what? And if you get a dent in one of those Teslas, you're out $35,000 fixing it. And those batteries only last for so long. After that, boom, there we go. Just throw them away. Right? That's just, these people, they're mad. During routine operations, cooling a nuclear reactor requires millions of gallons of water daily. I've said that. Along with the building cement structure, this water becomes radioactive. Yup, and then they just melt it down, grind it up, and use it. In Florida, they're using that's phosphogypsum. That's a whole nother thing. But they're also using ground up cement from these nuclear power plants. And radioactive waste lasts up to 500 million years. That's the half-life. That means times that by 10 to 100 to get the full length that this stuff lasts. We do not know how to dispose of radioactive waste safely. I didn't know these things. Students of nuclear engineerings are nothing but glorified plumbers, okay? Kudos to them. Hats off for what you learned, but you have been lied to. That's why you guys have massive rates of cancer and all the other afflictions from working around that stuff, and they don't tell you what it does. All right? They're not required to study disposal of radioactive waste. Such classes are elective. So the promise is the reason why these nuclear power plants are allowed, even though the radioactive waste, there's no place to put it, is because they promise one day they're going to solve the nuclear waste problem, and there's no such possibility. So they know it, The students, nuclear engineering students, don't even have to learn about radioactive waste. Good Lord. Good Lord, these people. No underwriter will insure a nuclear reactor. No underwriter will insure homeowners or renters for the impacts of nuclear fallout. So that's why, and along with other reasons that Rosalie Bertell stated in her book, No Immediate Danger, Prognosis for a Radioactive Earth, she stated that they create an environment that feels comfortable with our ignorance. And then they say, well, that's the society, that's the culture. And then they determine, so it doesn't matter. They don't mind having a lot of radiation in their food. They don't mind having these nuclear power plants. They've accepted death. They've accepted babies with no anuses. Okay? And so that's part of the culture. We could kill them, and it's just a tradition. Okay? And so governments subsidize nuclear reactors. That's not the government. That's you and me. You and me and our dollars, okay? Private investors are reluctant to fund them since they are not economically viable, right? But they keep touting this out. Oh, Miss America. Woo, those nuclear reactors. Give us more, give us more. Right along with the babies with no anuses. So let's see if I can run through these headlines. So in the meantime, the seafood industry along the Pacific, Great Pacific Seafoods, okay, which reportedly had hundreds of Alaskan employees at 3 processing plants, has ceased operations because ain't no damn fish. Ain't no damn fish. Here you go. Colossal Pacific salmon run reduced to rubble. Climate change to blame, say scientists. Oh, they go them smart scientists again. But for some reason, it's only on the West Coast. But here's something interesting about the salmon. And they have been showing these unusual little white spots. That's why they developed a whole little pink dye so that you don't know that you're eating probably cancerous salmon cells, which might infest you, but what caused them? That's definitely infesting you. That's the radiation. Because before all of the salmon started dying, there had been record runs of salmon too. And record runs of sardines, but the sardines have also collapsed. Where? On the Pacific. So I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked by this headline whatsoever. Some embalmers say white fibrous clots showing up. Others say it's a conspiracy theory. What a coinky dinky. That's exactly what has been showing up in the salmon right after Fukushima. Fukushima has been the equivalent, I would say by now, after 2 years, a Japanese professor said it had been the equivalent of 10,000 Hiroshima bombs. I got a report from TEPCO that said that there's been an exponential increase in the levels of radiation coming out of Fukushima. And so thereby, 10,000 times, I don't know, 5 each and every single year? When does that equal like 50,000 Hiroshima bombs? Is that going to be a problem? Because remember, it's not the explosion. It's the radiation. As people living near Nagasaki and Hiroshima found out for themselves, the U.S. government went in and made sure that they specifically counted only limited numbers. They found out through something called black rain, and that those numbers were far greater. That was from the bomb itself with all the ash. The rain came down and it was black and it contaminated all the people that got deluged in it. And so figuring the same affliction as you see in the salmon is now happening to people. And as I said, Fukushima is such an aberration, such a enormous deviation from the usual contamination. There's Fukushima radiation that's been found absolutely everywhere. According to the new Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, they found it everywhere within a month on both hemispheres, the northern and the southern. And so why would they even say something like this is a conspiracy theory? Because they don't want us talking about it. And speaking about not talking about it, I didn't even know Google finally had to admit that they helped cover up Fukushima. I had a video on my original channel where it was a dude, Martin Fackler, Tokyo bureau chief for the New York Times, who was at an ASEAN meeting, that's Asian Pacific nations getting together to figure out how they're going to run their countries. And he advised, because it was shortly after Fukushima, covering the entire story, the entire catastrophe up. I still have the video, so I ain't no problem getting it, but I'm just saying, right? These scientists will never be able to mention Fukushima, even though in however long I've been talking, I just proved the connection 100%. So Google, when you would go Google Fukushima radiation, Fukushima meltdown, you ain't find a daggone thing that was going to be actually informative. You would never find someone like me, not in a million years. Oh my goodness gracious. All right? Same thing as what they've done with this site right here. I used to be able to come here and you would see, I don't know what, 1 million dots? Let me go to the one meme. I captured one of these photos. Each one of these dots. And trust and believe, if they've gone all through this little blank area right here, they'd have found radiation in every single water sample, because this is just where their ships sailed. And every dot had radiation calculated in it. If you want to go to the trouble of, joining the site yourself, I ain't in the mood. I don't have the time. Then feel free to do so. And they only email that information now. That's because I have been doing my due diligence to warn you. So you leave the sea moss alone. You won't eat any rice. You don't know where the daggone it came from, especially if you are in the Caribbean or in Africa. Okay? Because these are some devilish dudes, but they don't want to be caught out there. They won't stop being devilish, but they don't want to be caught out there because there's no excuse for evil, right? So later on, Google came out and apologized. Do you hear anything about this? No. Well, I need to do a quick breakdown of just the level of evil we're dealing with. This is a little couple screen captures from a Netflix documentary called The Family about this Christian group that's highly secretive, and they influence world governments all over the daggone place. That's why we had this whole friggin' turn everybody into friggin' hypochondriac madness going on that they're trying to restart. But they couldn't do it fast enough, so now they got a whole friggin' war that has not a damn thing to do with us. But I notice they're trying to drag in all these famous black puppets to come out on either side and to make it seem like we're on whatever side they decide is the wrong side. That's what they're going to pick, okay? So in this little thing, they were going over this. It's like a cult, and it's run by white boys, even though they had a couple black people up in there because it makes them look like we're not racist, when that's what all of this is about. And so the purpose was to implant within the minds of young men, and every country for them is their country, okay? And this was the other side of a select number of outstanding need for a leadership led by God. But when you say God, they mean the devil. They don't mean the creator of all existence using nothing but truth. They mean if God has chosen you to be in power, who am I to refute that? Meaning you can't look at, if God is evil, then don't ask any questions. Just do what you're told, okay? And so this guy, he has written books about this organization, and he was going over how when you would go, it was some guy named Coe. I can't remember what his first name was, but his last name was Coe. And he was with all the big power makers, presidents and so on. They ain't got any power whatsoever. But I'm just saying, they were greasing the wheels. So if I'm to serve God by helping you stay in power, then what if Jesus plus nothing is their idea of power? First off, Jesus is the original leader of the KKK before they came up with the name KKK. But plus nothing? This is the nothingness. I've been explaining this. The antimatter. They are so close to the antimatter that it literally instructs them in their behavior. It's pure, unadulterated, horror-filled chaos. It is the nothingness. It is antimatter. All you have to do is study the results from the CERN Hadron Particle Collider to understand. And they know, they have been admitting quietly that there is an intelligence that keeps antimatter at bay. The nothingness doesn't want that. The nothingness has no mind, but in having no mind, it has a mind. It seeks just from a pure physics basis to tear apart existence, to tear apart everything that the Creator has made. These guys right here are so close to it, they try to rationalize it. They try to make evil sound like it makes sense. So this guy who's the actor who's playing the part of the guy who did the books about them, he's like looking like, whoa, did he just say Jesus plus nothing? Yeah, Jesus plus. This is the only time in the series, and I didn't watch the whole series because it was boring, but that it makes sense. He had to emphasize it by saying it twice, okay? Simultaneously banal and totalitarian. These people are the devil. They are the devil incarnate. They think they have been given the mandate of heaven to do whatever the hell they want to do on this planet, no matter how it affects anyone. So here's the power of particle radiation right here, because each atom of radiation is giving off this level of intensity inside your body if you're eating it or breathing it in. Orange skies, anybody? Okay? They explained that away as best they could in the media too without saying, oh, it's the radiation. So we've got this. We've got this. Because this is their way of, they hope, staving off the inevitable downfall of Lucifer them. Right? So I thank dear brother Jacob Yahya Shaul, who allowed me to use his quote, his comment that he left on my Facebook page. If you truly love the largest organ of your body, get this soap. Best soap I've ever used in 56 years of using soaps. That is not a brother given to exaggeration. That's a black man, solid, feet on the ground, head in forever, right? Best soap I've ever used in 56 years of using soaps. And then he said, and while you're there, you might as well go and pick up the best deodorant I've ever used as well. It's this book on how to remove radiation from your body. Furnace of Affliction, Healing Radiation Damage to the Human Body. I'm not a fearmongerer. I come with solutions. That's why I keep fighting so ferociously for you. Okay? Because the, he said a word I can't say, are all about the slow kill. But kill you they will. Okay? That's what they hope. That's what they hope. And when we read the headlines, as long as we remain ignorant, that's what they manage to do. Allahu Akbar. And thank you, family, for listening to the entire share. I will see you as I see you. That writing that book and taking care of our home is my top priority. And so that leaves me a limited amount of time. And I hope I can finish the book quickly. But I have to do it well because it's just what I'm writing. It's so amazing. Black love during the apocalypse. Whoa, that's exciting. All right, so I love you, family. I will see you in a couple days. Say it loud, say it proud, 'cause it is true forever. Without black you, there is no black me and no black us. Straight black family pride. Peace and blessings.